Indonesia gaming. Not exactly a combination that rings many bells. I mean, hey, I get it. Indonesian games aren't really household names. Yet. Cause see, that's where we come in. Last time on this channel, I tackled Troublemaker, an Indonesian indie game that left me, lukewarm. It made me curious though. Surely Indonesia has more to offer than this. So, I dug a little deeper and I found Dreadout. What? Go away. Although I didn't really mind Troublemaker as a whole, it left me unsatisfied. But now, the ball is in Dreadout's court. Will Dreadout deliver? Or will it be just another rough gum, overshadowed by time? What's the deal with Dreadout? Oh hell yeah. Oh hell yeah. I haven't played that many horror games in my time, but defenselessness seems to be pretty constant in the genre. I mean, it makes sense why. Dreadout pits you against Indonesian folklore ghosts. Apparently there's a lot of malicious beings in Indonesia. And it leaves you with only a camera for self-defense. This was enough to freak me out kinda badly during my playthrough. Although my reactions really don't show it. Oh! Something else to mention before really getting into it. The game is literally 10 years old at this point. I'm not about to go too hard on janky animations and the like. You also have no excuse if this video ends up spoiling you. Just go play it now instead. The key gimmick to Dreadout is the camera. Surprise, surprise. With it out, certain ghosts become visible, and taking pictures with it is your main way of interacting with the game. It solves puzzles, it banishes ghosts, and also lets you store vital memories in your gallery for later. What the fuck, man? There's a delay when taking it out, you move slow with it, your FOV is reduced, it feels consequential, and that's good. It's a fun, novel gimmick and it's used efficiently. I like it. Novel, actually. That's a pretty good way of describing the game as a whole, in my opinion. It's really creative, and luckily mostly in ways that also feel fun to play. I'll go deeper on that in a second though. For now, wanna see something really horrifying? Yeah, I know. Dreadful. Anyway, the camera is one thing, but it's only ever going to be as good as the world it interacts with, right? Well, I'm happy to announce, the level design does keep up. Sometimes. It's on and off, really. Sometimes the game feels scattered and kind of unfocused. I think a big reason for that is the fact that the game is split up into acts. It might seem like a weird decision. Because it is, but it does actually end up being good for the game at large. Let me try to explain with a brief history lesson. Before the game came out, the devs released a sort of demo in the form of Act 0. The demo managed to catch some weird wave and became viral for a while, mostly due to Let's Players and the like. I mean, even PewDiePie played it. They released the two acts episodically later. If not for this structure, I probably wouldn't have heard of the game in the first place. But it does make it flow a little weirdly. It's pretty clear that they had ideas that kind of clashed in between the acts. For now though, let's see if Act 0 deserved the virality it got. Most mechanics in Dreadout are simple in a vacuum, so Act 0 really doesn't have to introduce that much in order for it to become a tutorial as well as a demo and a prologue. I think it manages all three pretty well, at least from a macro perspective. In micro terms, it stumbles a couple times. I mean, the absolute first puzzle in the game is finding this hidden door, only visible with the camera. No, like that's the puzzle. No hints, no clues, you just gotta look around the multiple dead ends you have at this point. Everyone I've seen has had to look this up. Not a great sign. We got a scripted death too. It introduces limbo to us. By walking into the light, we're able to return to the land of the living and retry. But the more you die, the further away the light goes. It's a cool in-universe explanation for dying and retrying, but it's also a bit of a chore. It's like a boss run, except the run part was taken just a little bit too literal. I think Act 0 feels like an old Flash game. It's creepy, but somewhat shallow and very short. I like it quite a bit though, but that has less to do with the way it plays, more so with the way it fits into the rest of the game. It's revealed that all of Act 0 was just a premonition that the main character Linda had. She's on a field trip with her classmates and teacher, but they stop to take a look at an abandoned school in the middle of a ghost town. This happens. Thus starts Act 1. I think this is my least favorite act. There is absolutely no direction, aside from Linda's own abstract notes, to go off of, and the school itself is just a bit too linear and repetitive to really support such open design, especially since you still have to do things in order. The school itself is essentially just these corridors, and on both floors you can enter almost every single room. Kung Fu Panda. At most, you get some notes about the lore of the town. I'd rather not be able to enter these rooms at all than have the promise of a possible horror game note dangle in front of me. I think it messes with the vibe of Act 1 a lot. What makes it worse is that the puzzles and enemies are really finicky here. It wasn't apparent to me at all that you had to hit this one from the back in order to kill it. If just one of the many notes I had at that point had said something like, ooh, they can't stand people looking at their shameful backs, or something like that, I'm sure I could have made the connection. But hey, it's all good. Because instead we got a local night watchman. Booty! It's real! Although it was hard to tell where to go next, I guess that did contribute to the horror? Maybe I'm just that one SpongeBob roller coaster clip. But I really did get unsettled and scared when playing this. I just had no idea what the game wanted from me. It got stressful, man. Some sequences stand out more so than others, mainly the last couple ghosts. They got me good. We make it out of the school eventually though, which ends Act 1 and starts the best part of the game. Act 2. I think that was the weirdest way I could have said that. They really stepped up the creativity for this one. And honestly, I wish the entire game had been more of Act 2. It just feels like they had so much more fun with this one. They do this really cool fake out early on where Linda picks up an umbrella for self-defense, only for her to use and break it in the cutscene. You never get to use it, despite having a key bound to swinging it. I think that's cool as shit. I mean, the camera angles are a lot more intriguing, the gameplay itself is much more cinematic. Compared to Act 1, it feels a lot more controlled, streamlined, which is great. When designing levels like this, it's much easier to predict and manipulate the player into doing and feeling certain things. And I think it works out excellently here, I really do. In Act 2, you're in the abandoned village itself, and you are trying to find a way out. But you're also trying to find your classmates and teacher. Oh yeah, they were just not in Act 1. That's another point in Act 2's court, as far as I'm concerned. So starting this act. Jesus, we get the SLR camera. You can zoom in with it, giving it a much larger range than the phone. You'd think this would make the phone obsolete, but the SLR only has a temporary flash, not a flashlight, so the phone still gets used. You just have to swap between the two on the fly. I think this is nice, since I really liked how the phone worked. This act is about as long as the first one, but it feels infinitely longer due to the changing scenery and the sense of progression you get. It's all the village, but you go from train tracks to holy sanctuary to murky hospital. No enemies are reused, it really feels like you're getting lost in this hell zone. Something else that really adds to this is the exact way that you interact with the rest of the characters for this act.
Poor Donnie. I hope he's in a better place. Bye.
Aside from one guy who gets locked into a toilet, all of them are involved in the plot somehow, with Ida obviously taking the biggest role. We're not sure why it happened to her in specific, but she got possessed by a powerful ghost that wants to use her body to move beyond the spirit realm. And we learn all this in one of the absolute highlights of the game, the conversation. Everything about the sequence was honestly fantastic. It was unsettling, exciting, and immersive. All you do is sit down in front of a possessed Ida and her weird doll and get the chance to ask her some questions. It's all first person, so it feels really cramped and uncomfortable, and the way it begins, I mean...
Linda, there you are. Finally someone to talk to.
Oh, that got me. Oh my god. At one point here, you're able to beg the ghost to let Ida go, and in response, it begins to question your relationship with her. Such a great way to make the player doubt themselves, because we've heard that they're great friends, but we've never really seen it.
Wanna come?
What the f? It asks for her phone number, something you can find in Act 0, but something I didn't end up remembering, so I ran out of time and got chastised. Valid, actually. She's my friend, of course I remember. There's no way. I might be glazing it a little much, but let's move on. The ghosts themselves are infinitely more intuitive here too. The weak spots are apparent and their mechanics are displayed pretty thoughtfully. There's this one guy who's completely invisible to you, even through the camera, but you can pretty reliably detect where he is, since in his arena in specific, all props have physics and make noise when moved. And this other one is only visible through a mirror, so you have to quickly calculate your aim after spotting it in the mirror. The fights got pretty fun. The puzzles still aren't great though. There are no clues, and they typically revolve around a single unclear action. Aside from that though, I really liked Act 2. It genuinely scared me, got me invested, and it played cleanly. What more could you ask of a game, especially one of this scale? Like, what the f... What are you? Oh, right, I haven't mentioned the story much, and that's because there's not much to mention, but once again, Act 2 does deliver on the parts that are there. The reason the town is ravaged and abandoned is because it's home to an ancient evil deity, a snake-like Ouroboros thing. The ghosts themselves are here because the snake thing can, like, connect the realm of the living to the realm of the dead? Yeah, something like that. As for why we are here, well, it turns out that our teacher was well aware of the snake and used us to gain access to it. Linda in specific has some weird innate connection to the otherworldly, which is why she was able to enter limbo and whatnot. Not groundbreaking stuff, but fun enough, enjoyable. Almost all of this was revealed in Act 2, by the way. I mean, I'm just saying. Dreadout is pretty short. It'll only take a couple hours or so if you wanted to. But I think its playtime is kind of part of its strengths. I don't always want a marathon, and despite the camera gimmick being handled well, it really can't carry the game forever. So I'm happy with how short the game is. It's far above the average, when you really think about it. As is typical, I'd like to talk about a lot more stuff, but making huge videos just really isn't feasible for me at the moment, so I'm going to have to round this one off here. This is where your favorite Plask videos are made. Did PewDiePie make that joke too? Here's the deal. Dreadout may not be the longest or most refined game you'll ever play, but what it lacks in length and refinement, it makes up for with creativity and atmosphere. The devs dared to give the game twists and make it rooted in Indonesian folklore. That alone makes it stand out. It's unique, it's genuinely eerie, it's surprisingly effective, despite its rough edges. Dreadout may not have that modern day sparkle to it, but it does prove one thing. Indonesia can do gaming. But okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's see if the second one's any good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. Bye bye. Putting this in his memorial service. Bro, I swear if Ira is evil, if she's somehow the Red Lady, this pick is so foreboding. There's no way I accidentally took this. If she's actually bad. That didn't occur to me before.